Logan didn't sit back down. He paced, back and forth behind the couch like a trapped animal. His hands kept opening and closing like he was trying to crush the air. My mother stayed frozen in her chair, staring at the emails Drew had placed in front of her. Dad still stood by the window, shoulders slumped, eyes fixed on the floor like the carpet had answers. I watched all of them, and something hit me hard. Not anger, not sadness, just clarity. This was the real family dynamic. Logan attacked, Mom defended, Dad disappeared, and I was expected to fold. But not tonight. Tonight, the game changed. Logan finally stopped pacing and pointed at me, voice shaking with rage. "So what, Ethan?" he snapped. "You're gonna go cry to some investor and destroy your own brother over paperwork?" I tilted my head slightly. "Over fraud," I corrected. He scoffed. "You're acting like I robbed a bank." Drew spoke calmly, like he was explaining math to a child. "Forgery, misrepresentation, and fraudulent inducement of investment are serious offenses, and yes, people go to prison for it." The word prison hung in the room like smoke. Logan's face changed. That confident swagger, gone. For a second, I saw fear cross across his eyes, and he tried to bury it fast. He turned to my mother. "Mom," he said urgently, tell them it wasn't like that." My mother's eyes were glossy, but she didn't defend him like usual, not immediately, because for once the truth was too solid to punch through. And when my mother finally spoke, her voice wasn't sharp, it was shaky. "Ethan, we were just trying to help your brother," she whispered. I stared at her. "That's what you call it? Help?" She swallowed hard. "I didn't think it would hurt you." That sentence made my stomach turn, because it exposed something even uglier. She didn't think about me at all. Not my reputation, not my business, not the fact that a scandal tied to my name could scare clients, investors, employees. She only thought about Logan. Always. I took a slow breath. "Mom," I said, voice steady, "you didn't accidentally sign a wrong form." I tapped the emails again. "You instructed him to use my name." Her lips trembled. "He's my son," she whispered, as if that explained everything. I nodded once. "And I'm not?" I asked quietly. That's when Dad finally moved. He stepped away from the window, voice low. "Ethan, son," he said, trying to sound gentle, "let's not tear the family apart." I looked at him. The man who watched me get ignored for decades, the man who knew Logan was scamming people with my name and stayed quiet anyway. "Dad," I said, "this family was torn apart long before tonight." He flinched like I'd slapped him. "Please," he murmured, "we can fix this." Fix it. That's what weak people say when the truth gets loud. They don't want justice, they want silence. Logan saw that Dad was trying to smooth things over, and he seized it like a lifeline. He walked toward me, palms up, voice suddenly soft, almost emotional. "Ethan, bro, okay, maybe I moved too fast." He nodded like he was being mature. "But you have to understand, I did this because I believed in us." I almost laughed. He had the nerve to say us. He leaned in closer. "I can make it right," he whispered. "Just help me cover the gap, just temporarily. 4 million. We'll call it an official partnership." Drew's pen stopped moving. My mother's head lifted slightly, like she was holding her breath. Dad stared at me like he was begging. And Logan smiled faintly, like he thought he'd won. That's when I realized, even now, even caught red-handed, he still believed my success belonged to him. He didn't fear what he did, he feared losing access to my money. I stood up, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the lesser son. I felt like the judge. "Here's what's gonna happen." Logan's smile tightened. My voice stayed calm, clear, deadly. You will shut down Carter Capital Partners immediately. Tonight. Logan scoffed. Ethan? No. No negotiation. I looked at my mother next. You'll remove my name from every document, every website, every pitch deck, every email template. I turned back to Logan. And you will send a written statement to every investor you contacted, confirming I am not a partner, I never committed funds, and you falsely represented me. Logan's eyes widened. That'll destroy me, he hissed. I nodded slowly. That's the point. My mother stood up suddenly, voice rising. Ethan, you can't do this. Think about what people will say. I looked at her like a stranger. You mean what people will say about Logan? I asked. She blinked, then started crying, hands shaking. He'll lose everything. I stared at her cold. He should have thought about that before he forged my name. Dad stepped forward, hands raised like a referee. Ethan, please, there has to be another way. Drew stood up too. There is, Drew said. Option B is law enforcement, state attorney, civil litigation. He looked at Logan, and Victor Lang is already prepared to submit everything. Logan's breathing changed, quick, shallow. His eyes flicked around the room like he was searching for an exit. Then he did something I didn't expect. He turned his anger toward Dad. You told him? Logan snapped. Dad froze. Dad started, voice cracking. Logan stepped closer to him, eyes burning. You weak old man. You can't ever protect anyone. Not Mom, not me, not even yourself. My dad's face collapsed. My mother cried harder. The room broke into pieces. And right there, right then, I saw the truth. This wasn't about money. This was about power. Logan needed to win. My mother needed control. My father needed peace. And I needed freedom. So I picked up the folder, and I delivered the final blow. You have 72 hours, I said. Logan whipped around. Or what? I looked him straight in the eyes. Or I release every document to every investor, every partner, and every authority that needs it. Then I leaned in closer, voice low that only he could hear. I'm not bluffing. Logan's face went pale. Because he knew me. He knew I wasn't the invisible kid anymore. And he also knew the next part of this story wasn't happening inside a living room. It was about to happen in public. For 2 days, my phone stayed silent. No calls, no texts, no guilt trips, no dramatic voicemails. And that silence should have felt like peace, but it didn't, because I knew Logan. Logan didn't accept defeat. He didn't learn lessons. He didn't take accountability. Logan only did one thing when he got cornered. He looked for someone else to blame. So on the 3rd day, the final day of my 72-hour ultimatum, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing like an alarm. Not one notification, not 2, dozens. Drew was calling, my CFO was calling, one of my lead developers. Then I saw the messages, links, screenshots, headlines. The first one hit me like a punch. Software CEO accused of financial manipulation. I clicked, and there it was, a freshly published blog post on a local business news site. It wasn't an official newspaper, but it didn't need to be. It looked clean, professional, convincing, and the story was written like a crime report. It said, I had inflated my company valuation. I was hiding assets. I was exploiting family connections. I had financial disputes with investors. Then the article included one line that made my chest go cold. Sources close to the Carter family suggest Ethan Carter may have been involved in misleading commitments to multiple investment groups. Multiple investment groups. That wasn't random phrasing. That was a setup. Logan was trying to flip the narrative so it looked like I was the fraud. I scrolled lower, and I saw the part that made my blood turn ice. A screenshot, a fake email thread with my name, my face, and a forged message that said, "Victor, don't contact Logan. I'm moving funds quietly. Keep this off record. Ethan." My stomach dropped. Logan didn't just want out. He wanted revenge. He wanted to destroy my credibility so I'd have no power to fight back. I stood up so fast my chair rolled back. "No," I whispered, because now I understood the plan. If he could paint me as the scammer, then investors wouldn't believe me, my company would get nervous, my employees would panic, clients would hesitate, and I'd be forced to settle quietly just to protect my business. It was genius, in the sickest way. I called Drew immediately. He answered in one ring. "I saw it," he said, before I could speak. My voice was sharp. "That's not even good fake work. It's—" Drew cut in. "It has to be loud." I clenched my jaw. "Tell me Victor didn't fall for it." Drew paused, then said, "Victor didn't fall for it. Victor is furious." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Drew continued, "He's actually the reason I'm calling. Victor tracked the domain registration of that site." I blinked. "You can do that?" Drew's voice turned cold. "You can do anything when someone's sloppy and desperate." He sent me a screenshot. Domain registration details. The email used to register the site. logan.carter.capital@gmail.com. My hands went numb. Logan was so arrogant he didn't even hide himself. Drew's tone stayed sharp and precise. "Ethan, this just upgraded the situation." "Upgraded," I repeated. "Yes," he replied. "Before, Logan's fraud was mainly civil and financial. Now he's doing coordinated defamation using forged evidence." I stared at the screen. "You're saying he just made it worse?" "He made it prosecutable," Drew replied. I stopped breathing for a second, because something inside me shifted. I'd been trying to be controlled, measured, professional. I didn't want the mess. I didn't want the family war. I wanted my life. But Logan wasn't leaving me a choice. He wanted chaos. He wanted blood. So fine, I'd give him consequences. Drew said Victor is willing to give a sworn statement. So are 2 other investors. 2? I asked. Drew exhaled. "Logan contacted more than we thought, and he used your name more aggressively than we thought." My head pounded. Then my phone buzzed again. A text message. From Logan. Just one line. "Logan, guess you should have invested, bro." I stared at it. My hands shook, not from fear, from rage. It wasn't even about money anymore. He was enjoying it. Enjoying trying to destroy me. Drew's voice cut through my silence. "I can have emergency filings drafted tonight. Restraining order, defamation cease, and we can notify your key clients preemptively." I nodded even though he couldn't see it. "Do it," I said. Then I added, voice low, "and send everything to Victor." Drew hesitated. "Ethan, once we do that, there's no going back." I looked out my office window at the morning sun, the city waking up like nothing was happening, and I realized something. There was never a going back. Not after what Logan did, not after what Mom signed, not after Dad stayed quiet. So I spoke with the calm of someone stepping into fire willingly. "Good," I said. "I'm done going back." That evening, Drew walked into my office carrying a thicker folder than before. He dropped it on my desk. "Here's the nuclear option," he said. I opened it. It wasn't just legal paperwork. It was a full package. Investor statements, domain tracing, screenshots of fake emails, metadata proof, and a drafted complaint ready to file. At the bottom was one last line Drew had typed. Next step, contact state investigator. I stared at it, heartbeat steady, and then I smiled. Not because I was happy, because I knew. Logan thought he'd made his best move, but he'd actually made the biggest mistake of his life. He gave us something more valuable than any email or forged signature. He gave us proof of intent, and intent is what puts people in handcuffs. The morning after the article went viral, I didn't go into panic mode. I went into war mode. I met Drew in my office before sunrise. The building was quiet, lights dim, the city still half asleep. Drew set 2 coffees down and opened his laptop like we were about to launch a missile. "Victor's ready," he said. I nodded once. So am I. Because this time, we weren't chasing Logan. We were setting the trap. Victor Lang wasn't just angry, he was strategic. He organized an investor meeting the same day, an emergency call with the exact people Logan had been pitching to. Logan thought he could manipulate with fake emails and family drama. Victor was about to introduce him to something he couldn't charm his way out of: adult consequences. Drew and I joined the investor call under my real name, cameras on, documents ready. At exactly 10 a.m., Victor started the meeting. His face was calm but tight, like he was holding back fury. "Gentlemen," Victor said, "we have a situation involving Carter Capital Partners." I watched the participant list: 8 investors, 2 brokers, 1 banking compliance officer. And then, Logan. His name popped in. Logan Carter. He joined with his camera off. That alone told me he was scared. Victor didn't waste a second. "Logan," he said sharply, "turn your camera on." A pause. Then Logan's face appeared. He was in a suit. His hair was perfectly styled. But his eyes were wrong, too shiny, too alert, like a man who hadn't slept and was surviving on ego and caffeine. He smiled. "Victor, everyone, great to see you." Victor cut him off. "No," he said, "you don't get to perform today." Logan blinked, smile fading. Victor looked into the camera. "There are documents circulating claiming Ethan Carter pledged $4 million to this project. That is false." Logan's jaw tightened. Victor continued. "Ethan Carter is on this call. Ethan, confirm." I leaned forward. "My name is Ethan Carter," I said clearly. "I never pledged funds, I never approved this project, and my signature was forged." Logan tried to laugh. "That's ridiculous." Drew spoke. "Mr. Carter," he said calmly, "we have metadata, registration logs, and third-party confirmation proving the forgery and misrepresentation. Continue interrupting and you will worsen your legal exposure." Logan's smile died completely. He stared at Drew like he wanted to kill him through the screen. Victor clicked share screen, and then he did it. He displayed Logan's entire scam in front of everyone. The deck with my photo, the fake bank letter, the forged signature, the LLC filing with my mother listed as co-owner. Then Victor pulled up the domain registration of the defamation site, the email attached to it, logan.carter.capital@gmail.com. Logan's face drained of color. One investor, an older man with silver hair, leaned closer to his camera. "Logan," he said slowly, "is this your email address?" Logan swallowed hard. "That email's old," he mumbled. Victor's voice turned icy. "It was registered 3 days ago." That's when Logan finally cracked. He leaned forward, voice suddenly loud and emotional. "You don't understand," he snapped. "Ethan is trying to ruin me because he hates me. He's been jealous his whole life." Jealous. There it was, the classic golden child defense. If he couldn't deny the evidence, he'd attack my character. Victor didn't blink. This isn't about jealousy. This is about fraud. Then Victor turned to the compliance officer on the call. "What are we required to do now?" he asked. The compliance officer adjusted his glasses.
Based on what we've seen, we are required to file a suspicious activity report. There may also be a referral to state investigators. Logan's eyes widened. You can't. Victor cut him off. We can, and we will. And just like that, Logan's entire world shifted. Not by emotion, not by family drama, but by the cold machinery of the financial system. Because banks don't care if you're someone's son. Banks don't care if your mother cries. Banks don't care if your father begs for peace. Banks care about one thing: risk. And Logan was pure risk. 2 hours later, my phone rang. Victor. He didn't sound angry anymore. He sounded satisfied. "It's done," he said. "What's done?" I asked. Victor paused, letting the words hit. "Carter Capital's accounts are flagged and frozen pending investigation. Funds can't move. Payments can't clear." I closed my eyes for a second. Frozen. That one word felt heavier than any insult my family had ever thrown at me. Because Logan didn't fear shame. Logan feared losing control. And with frozen accounts, he had no control. That evening, the first real wave hit my family. My mother called from an unknown number, crying, sobbing like the world was ending. "Ethan," she begged, "what did you do? They're saying Logan could be arrested." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just spoke like a man who finally understood his own worth. "I didn't do anything," I said. "Logan did." She sobbed harder. "You're destroying this family." I stared at my office wall, calm. "No," I said. "I'm protecting my name. You should have done the same." Then I hung up, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't scared of being the villain in their story. Let them hate me. I was done being the victim. And Logan was about to learn what happens when your lies leave paper trails, because frozen accounts were only the beginning. The next step was a knock at his door.
The knock didn't come at night. It came in the middle of the day, when Logan least expected it. Because that's how real consequences arrive. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just sudden, official, and impossible to talk your way out of. 2 days after the investor call, I was in my office reviewing a product roadmap with my team when Drew walked in without knocking. He didn't sit. He didn't smile. He just dropped his phone on my desk. "Victor just called," he said. My stomach tightened. What now? Drew tapped the screen. "State investigators involved. Financial crimes unit." I stared at him, and even though I knew it was coming, hearing it out loud felt like the final door slamming shut. "You mean criminal?" I asked. Drew nodded once. "Criminal." An hour later, my father called. Not text, not voicemail, a direct call. That alone told me something big had happened. I answered. "Dad?" His breathing was uneven. "Ethan, they came." My grip tightened on the phone. "They came where?" "To the house," he said quickly. 2 men, 1 woman. Badges." I closed my eyes for a second. So it started. "They asked about Logan," Dad continued, voice trembling. "They asked about money, emails, documents. They asked about you." My jaw clenched. "And what did you say?" I asked. There was silence. Then finally, "The truth," Dad said. "I told them I didn't know all the details." His voice cracked on the word details, like he wanted to pretend he wasn't part of it. I felt something sharp in my chest. Not pity, not anger, just disappointment so deep it felt permanent. "You did know," I said quietly. "You texted him that it felt wrong." Dad whispered, "I didn't think it would go this far." I almost laughed. That sentence was my entire childhood in one line. He'd always thought everything would magically not go that far, but it always did. Because people like my mother and Logan didn't stop themselves. They only stop when they hit a wall, and I was the wall now. That evening, my mother called again. New number, same desperation. Her voice was raw, swollen from crying. "Ethan, please, this has gone too far. You made your point." I leaned back in my chair.
You don't get to decide what's too far." She sobbed. "They were here, Ethan. They asked about my name on that company filing." I went silent for a beat. So now she was scared for herself. Not ashamed, not sorry, scared. "Mom," I said slowly, "you signed those documents." "I didn't understand," she cried. "You understood enough to email Logan and say my name would open doors," I replied. Her breathing hitched. Then her voice turned sharp, like fear was turning into rage. "This is what you wanted, isn't it? To punish us? To make Logan suffer because you've been bitter your whole life?" There it was, her last weapon, blame. I spoke softly now, colder than before. "I didn't want this," I said. "I wanted you to respect me." She went quiet, and I realized she still didn't understand, even now. To her, respect was the same thing as obedience, and I refused to obey. Later that night, Drew sent me a document, a formal letter. Not from the investors, not from the bank, from the state. It wasn't an arrest warrant, not yet, but it was an official notice of investigation. It referenced forgery, fraudulent inducement, misrepresentation to investors, use of falsified financial documents, and it named 2 parties of interest, Logan Carter, Carter Capital Partners, LLC. Then, near the bottom, I saw something that made my eyes narrow, a line that read, "Possible additional participants pending further review." Participants, plural. That meant Logan wasn't the only one in their sights. My mother could be charged too, and my father, even if not charged, could be questioned until his silence collapsed. The next morning, Victor called again. His tone was controlled, businesslike, but there was an edge underneath. "Logan tried to contact me," Victor said. I froze. "What did he say?" Victor let out a short laugh, no humor in it. He offered to make things right if I agreed not to cooperate. My eyes narrowed. "You tried to bribe him." "Not exactly money," Victor replied. "He offered me access, a partnership, future profit. Same scam, different wrapping." I exhaled slowly. Logan couldn't stop lying even with handcuffs approaching. Victor continued. "And Ethan, he said something else." "What?" I asked. Victor paused. "He said you were involved. He said you knew everything, and this was just a family power play." My stomach turned. So Logan was trying to drag me down with him. Typical. If he couldn't survive, he wanted to burn everyone around him. But Logan didn't understand one thing. I didn't move like him. I didn't lie. I didn't hide. And I didn't leave fingerprints all over the crime. Drew had evidence. Victor had records. Investors had timelines. Logan had excuses. By lunchtime, my father texted me one sentence. "Dad is blaming you." I stared at the screen. Then another message came, from an unknown number, short, arrogant. "You think you won, Ethan? This isn't over." I didn't respond. I didn't need to, because the moment investigators entered the story, it stopped being about what Logan believed. It stopped being about family. It stopped being about feelings. It became about proof, and proof doesn't care who cries. That evening, Drew showed up with another folder, thicker than the last. "We've got subpoenas coming, and once that happens, your mother and father will be questioned under oath." I felt my chest tighten, not because I feared the truth, but because I knew what was next. My family was about to do what they always did under pressure. They were going to sacrifice someone to save Logan, and this time, they were going to try sacrificing me. But I was done being their shield. So I looked Drew in the eyes and said, "Then we go first." Drew nodded once. "Good," he said, "because I already prepared the final strike."
When Drew said final strike, he didn't mean a dramatic speech. He meant paperwork. Because in the real world, people don't fall because of yelling. They fall because of signatures. And my family was about to learn that the hard way. The next morning, Drew and I walked into a conference room downtown. Clean walls, soft lighting, a long table built for serious decisions. Victor Lang was there in person. 2 other investors joined. So did the compliance officer, and sitting at the far end of the table, a state investigator. No cameras, no theatrics, just cold reality. The investigator introduced herself briefly, then looked at me. "Mr. Carter," she said, "we have reviewed initial evidence and statements. We need to confirm your position clearly." I didn't hesitate. "I never authorized the use of my name," I said. "I never committed funds. I never signed those documents." She nodded, then slid a paper toward me. "Then sign this affidavit." I read it. It was direct. My name used without consent, my signature forged, my image used in marketing materials, investors misled based on false claims, harm caused to my reputation and business. I signed. Slowly. Carefully. Not because I was nervous, because I understood what that signature meant. That one signature didn't just protect me, it separated me from them. Legally. Permanently. And once that line existed, Logan couldn't blur it anymore. Victor slid his own papers forward. "I'm filing my formal complaint," he said. 2 other investors did the same. The compliance officer added bank reports. The investigator collected everything into a folder. Then she said the sentence that ended Logan's world. "Based on these documents, we will proceed with further action." I didn't ask what action. I already knew. That afternoon, my father left me a voicemail. His voice was shaking so badly I barely recognized him. "Ethan, please call me. It's bad. It's really bad." I didn't call back. Instead, I got a text from my cousin. "Cops are at your parents' house." Then another. "Logan got taken out in cuffs." I sat still for a moment, staring at the words. Not happy, not sad, just still. Because when you've been invisible your whole life, you learn something strange. Even victory can feel quiet. Later, Drew called. "It happened," he said. "What exactly?" I asked. Drew exhaled. "They executed warrants. Devices seized, accounts locked. Logan was detained for questioning." I closed my eyes, and for the first time in months, the pressure in my chest loosened. Drew continued. "And Ethan, your mother's in trouble too." My jaw tightened. "How bad?" "They pulled her email history," Drew said. "Her role isn't she didn't understand, it's she helped." A long pause. Then Drew added, "Your dad admitted he knew something was wrong." I didn't reply, because I wasn't surprised. I'd spent 30 years watching him choose silence over integrity. 2 days later, my mother appeared outside my office. No call, no warning, just her standing in the lobby like she still owned access to me. The receptionist asked if I wanted to see her. I said yes, not because I missed her, because I wanted closure. When she stepped into my office, she looked smaller than I remembered. No makeup, eyes swollen, hands trembling. For the first time, my mother didn't look powerful. She looked like someone facing consequences. "Ethan, please, your brother, he's—" I raised a hand. "Stop," I said. She froze. I leaned forward slightly. "Do you know what hurts the most?" I asked calmly. She swallowed. "I never asked how you built your life," I said. "Not once. You never cared about my company until you could use it like a credit card." Tears slid down her cheeks. "I'm your mother," she whispered. I nodded. "And I was your son," I replied. "But you treated me like a resource." Her lips trembled. "I was trying to protect the family." I stared at her. "No," I said. "You were trying to protect Logan's image." Silence. Heavy. Final. Then I said the last thing she deserved to hear. "You made your choice. Now live with it." My mother sobbed, real sobs this time. But I didn't feel pulled. I didn't feel guilty. I just felt finished. I walked to my office door and opened it. She understood, and she left. That night, I went home to my apartment overlooking the Charlotte skyline. I stood by the windows with the lights off, watching the city breathe below me. It hit me then, fully. I wasn't free because Logan got arrested. I wasn't free because accounts were frozen. I was free because I finally accepted the truth. Some families don't love you, they own you, until you break the chain. And I did. The next week, my company signed a major contract with a national logistics provider. My team celebrated in our office, laughing, cheering, planning the next release. No guilt, no drama, just growth, just future, just earned success. And that night, as I watched my employees smile, people who valued me without conditions, I realized something powerful. Family doesn't deserve loyalty just because of blood. Loyalty is earned. Respect is earned. And love, real love, never needs forgery to survive. Logan tried to steal my name. My mother tried to sell it. My father tried to stay silent. But in the end, the only thing they succeeded in doing was proving I was never invisible. I was simply underestimated. And that was their biggest mistake. Because I didn't just survive their betrayal, I rose above it with my name, my life, and my $41 million future still mine.